Hello, everybody. Welcome to the program. My name is Denora Meyer, and I am one of the assistant directors on the counseling team at the Career Center and the career counselor specifically for the College of Environmental Design. And with me, I have my colleague Jing Han waving over there. And Jing is joining me to help with to present about job and internship search strategies for international students. She is another assistant director on the counseling team who specifically serves international students in all majors. And so thank you so much for joining me, Jing, with this. And just to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing today. Okay, I'm enabling live transcription, and hopefully this will work fine. Let me know if there's any problem. Alrighty. So I'm going to start off by sharing my screen. And okay. So once again, I'm Denora Meyer with Jing Han, and we also have student groups who have helped to promote this program, and members of different student groups. Thank you so much for helping to promote the program. We have people from AIAS Berkeley, CASA, the CED Undergraduate Student Council, and CED. So thank you all for your help. And if you would like to put anything in the chat about your particular organization, please feel free to inform the students who are here and any alumni about, well, actually students, about the work that you're doing and any way that they can get involved with your group. Thank you. And today we also have a panel of guest speakers. Thank you guys so much for coming to share your knowledge and wisdom and advice with students today. We're going to be talking again about job and internship search strategies for CED students and recent alumni. And so here we have the list of people. I'm not going to run through it right now. I just want to tell you first what we're going to be doing tonight. I'm going to be presenting some basic principles of job and internship search. And then we'll move into a panel for all students that will move into the panel of all these of our guests, answering certain questions. And we'll give you guys also, you students, an opportunity to ask questions. And then Jing will present about specifically for international students, resources and approaches for international students. And then we'll have a Q&A with the panel again, focused specifically on international student concerns. And so we're very happy to be able to offer this for you this evening. So is there anything I'm missing, Jing, from what I've said?
Denora, I think you covered all of them.
Okay, thank you so much. It's good to have a partner. So here we go. Moving on to the next page. If you will go down to the next page, I have to click on here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the recruiting timeline. So unlike other colleges at Cal, where you have maybe Haas or College of Engineering, or even other majors, or really anybody who's looking for opportunities in finance, consulting, engineering, those roles, oftentimes the recruiting timeline starts much earlier in the fall or even the previous summer for internships and then for jobs. And so you may hear from your friends, oh, I'm already interviewing, I've already gone to a career fair, I'm already deciding between opportunities, and that can be a little stressful. You might feel like you're somehow behind, but in all likelihood, you're not, because for CED students, for their interests, for your interests, usually there are more opportunities that emerge in the spring. That's really more the time frame for actively looking for opportunities. It's true that full-time jobs are available year-round, and employers know that most Cal students will be graduating in the spring, and that also some will in December and in August. And just the way the world works, there are full-time jobs available, throughout the year. But internships, for the most part, they will be posted more in the spring, starting in January. There are some exceptions. So for example, the City and County of San Francisco has an internship every year. I didn't see it posted yet, but I think it's probably going to be posted in November with a deadline of February. So you can get a head start on that, but most opportunities will be in the spring. And you may hear about other opportunities or see them on Handshake. So the CED Career Fair, we haven't yet chosen the date. We're deciding on that date. And we're also determining whether it's going to be in person or virtual. And that will be for both internships and jobs. And we're going to try to get a broad array of employers there. So that will be where you can also go to find opportunities. So that's the timeline basically. And if you have any questions as we're going along, you can either unmute yourself or raise your hand. Probably unmuting yourself will be easier because of the PowerPoint. I can't actually see anything. I can't see, you know, because right now we have like 40 people here, and which is great. Thank you all for coming. Okay, so let's move down to the next. Okay, so where do you find opportunities? Some of this you may know. You know, Handshake. Obviously, we promote Handshake because employers list jobs and internships on Handshake. And the nice thing about Handshake is that they're specifically looking for Cal students and recent alumni. So you're not competing with people outside, even though sometimes, you know, they will be posting in different colleges, but you can feel like they really are looking for Cal students or recent graduates. So you can go in there and there are different, I'm not going to spend time on this because I want to give the panel a lot of time, but you can look through different filters in terms of industry, location, job titles. You can use keywords. It's like a typical job board, you know. And if you want help, if you're having trouble finding opportunities that suit you, you can always make an appointment. You can make an appointment with me or with Jing if you're international, or if you're an LNS student, for example, or in a different college, we have counselors who can help you as well. So you're in good hands if you need help with that. And we also have external websites listed on our website. So, for example, AIAS, rather AIA, sorry, AIA East Bay, AIASF, you know, and then we have, you know, as an example, you know, or different job boards outside of Handshake. So you can go there and you can find opportunities. This is, you know, typical job search stuff. LinkedIn, Indeed, those are also broader, you know, bigger platforms. So then, in addition to looking for those jobs online, we have what's called the hidden job market. So I'm sure that you've heard about the importance of networking, finding opportunities through connections. This is so important. And many people have a lot of anxiety about networking. They don't like the word. They feel kind of awkward about it. What do I even say? Actually, next Tuesday at the same time, 6 to 7:30, I'm going to be offering a program to help with that process. You know, how do I find people? How do I, more in depth than what I will be talking about tonight? What do I say? You know, different parts of the networking process of gathering information and making connections. You can get help with those things. We can do a little bit of practicing and figuring out what we want to say. So you can see, you know, the numbers on here. I have 70 to 85% of people get jobs through networking. You know, we don't know actually, but it's a large number, and oftentimes it's not just networking. It's a combination of approaches. So it's good to be looking for jobs and then also finding people who work at organizations that you're interested in, and also talking with people who at organizations that you don't know much about so you can learn more about them. So it can be a really good information gathering process, as well as an opportunity to share what you have to offer so that you can get known, and when opportunities come up, that you're more of a known quantity rather than just applying cold. Okay. Moving on from here. So I encourage you to network early. We are always, this is like during this time, you have this time where maybe there aren't as many opportunities listed. This is a great time to begin making connections. So, and you can do it without pressure. You don't have to be like, I have to have a job, you know, in the next month. You have some time, assuming you're graduating in the spring, or even if you're graduating in December, you still, you know, starting now, if you haven't started already, will be better than like right right before or after you graduate even. And you can find out about opportunities before they're posted. That's the really great thing about it. You know, you can actually even create opportunities sometimes if you're interested in a company or an organization, and it depends on the organization and their flexibility, but sometimes you can even approach a company and tell them about what you have to offer, you know, have a conversation. And sometimes jobs are built around people's interests and strengths. You may be able to fill a niche, especially if you've researched the organization and found out what they need. And you can get referrals to other people. Whenever you're networking, you always want to ask for other people you could speak with. So as I said, you know, you're building on established connections when an opportunity is posted. And oftentimes people will be willing to speak on your behalf or forward your resume, even if they can't literally promote you per se. I mean, if they've had a good conversation with you and they have a good feeling about you, then they can help you in the process of applying. So that's that. Moving down to the next one. So where can you find people? So there you can find people in both structured events, which we offer, you know, where there are a lot of people there, or you can do it more on a one-on-one basis, individual outreach. So we have career and internship fairs listed on our site, and we have career connections events. So career fairs, I know I'm sort of speaking at you, but hopefully some of you have been to career fairs and have had a chance to get comfortable, you know, speaking with employers. If, you know, in the spring, I will certainly have a program that helps you prepare for the career fair, for the CED career fair. And you can always meet with me or with Jing if you have another career fair that you want to go to, or with whichever counselor makes sense to help you prepare for a career fair. But it's a good place to find out about, to get opportunities and meet people. Career Connections is also a series of events we have where we have 15 to 20 alumni who come and talk about what they do. And then you move into breakout rooms and you have conversations and you learn, and you learn about them, they learn about you. It's a good networking context. In addition, we have, so then on the individual basis, we have no. So LinkedIn, I'm sure many of you have heard of LinkedIn or have profiles on LinkedIn. I encourage you all to build a profile on LinkedIn, and that's something that counselors can also help you with. And you know, finding alumni, there are lots of tools that you can use. The alumni database through LinkedIn, the alumni tools are a really great way to find people. We also have the Berkeley Career Network. You can use professional associations. The Berkeley International Alumni Network it's just an international network. So it's not, I mean, the fact is LinkedIn is also international, but this is like a Berkeley network as opposed to LinkedIn as a whole. Within LinkedIn also, though, there are groups. There are groups that you can join, like the CED alumni group. And there are other groups that are more industry specific that you can join and learn about opportunities and share information. And so that's another kind of a place where you can gather information, make connections. And the whole warm connection thing here is the idea that, first of all, that if you have made a connection with somebody, well, first of all, because they're fellow bears, it's not that you can only speak with a Cal alumni, you can speak with anybody really who's willing to speak with you, but that having that commonality of the university and of the college, it lends itself to people wanting to help you. So that warm connection helps with when you're reaching out to people through these digital platforms. You have something in common, and then they are more likely to want to help you, or they're, you know, so these are good resources to use. Okay, let's see. What's next? All right. So I want to move through this. I don't want to take up too much more time. While you're, quote, waiting for opportunities, you know, you can focus on building your skills, polishing your portfolio, other application materials, your resume, cover letters. It's good. You know, you don't want to suddenly, oh gosh, I've got to apply. I don't know what I need to have in my resume, or I don't know how to write a cover letter. I encourage you to get familiar with these if you're not familiar with them or if you're uncomfortable with them, because cover letters are challenging for most people. Just to get kind of, okay, what do I want to include? What's most important? And counseling, you can meet with counselors for help with that. Also to have a plan B and C that actually fits with the next bullet too, of being open-minded. It's good to have a focus. And actually that employers like focus, because if you're not sure what you want, they are not always sure what to do with you. You don't want them to do the work of helping you figure out what you want to do. And at the same time, to be open-minded, to look at related industries, different locations, to be targeted and yet also flexible will help you in the process. So that is it. That's all I have to say. And I hope that has been helpful for you. So next, we're going to shift into the panel. And again, if anybody has questions as we're moving along, I mean, if you have any questions about what I've said at any point, you can always put those in the chat. But I want to move on to the panel. And this is who we have. And what I'm going to do is start off by having each of them introduce themselves. If you can just unmute yourself and speak when you're ready. Let's go with, so I'm going to give us your name, what you studied, when you graduated, who you work for, what your role is, and if you are in a position to hire people, what kinds of positions you've hired for. And actually, it'd probably be easier if I just choose people. So Kim, can you go ahead and introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Van Truong. I am an associate principal and project manager at ELS Architecture and Urban Design. I studied my undergrad at Cal Architecture, graduated 2007. I was actually hired from the CED job fair, and I have been at ELS ever since. And I, along with some other colleagues, typically attend the career fair every year, looking for talented students to join our staff. And so I typically am looking at entry-level positions as well as 1 through 7 years of experience in terms of hiring.
Great, thank you. Kai, do you want to speak next?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kai. I'm an associate at PWP Landscape Architecture. And I'm also the internship coordinator for the summer intern at PWP every year. And I finished my undergrad degree in landscape architecture in 2017, and then went to GSC for my master's. But I started working at PWP since 2016 as a part-time intern. And at the time, a professor helped me to land the internship there. And I've been with PWP since then.
Thank you.
And okay, I just want to add that we are hiring entry-level position, and we welcome all of you to, of course, apply for the summer internship.
Thank you, Kai, and thank you for reminding me also of your role. that you hire people, that you're the internship person. So that's great. I'm now remembering that. So that's wonderful. You can contribute on that basis too. Thank you. Okay, Alex.
Oh, hi. Sorry. My name is Alex, and I just got my undergrad in architecture this year. So many familiar names I can see. Probably some of you know me. I moved to Chicago this May, and I got a job at the small firm WDN Architecture, and I am an architectural designer there.
Thank you so much. Anna.
Yeah, sorry to jump in ahead of time there. But yeah, my name is Anna Whitney, and I graduated from Urban Studies in 2020, and I'm now a legislative correspondent for U.S. Senator Cory Booker. But I had gotten hired as a staff assistant out of undergrad. And right now I'm supporting his environment and climate and agriculture portfolio.
Thank you. And Rudy?
Hi, everyone. I also just graduated in this last May, and I currently work for TBP Architecture, which is in Walnut Creek. So I'm still in the Bay Area. And I'm an architectural intern. So I do mostly CAD and Revit drafting, picking up red lines on construction documents, but I also get to do some design work as well. So that's pretty fun.
Great, thanks, Rudy. And finally, Doris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Doris, and I graduated this spring as well. So I majored in architecture, and I'm currently working as a junior designer at Butler Armstrong Architects, and it's a residential. They do residential architecture, and it's located in San Francisco. I would say I'm pretty much involved in everything, a little bit of everything, and it's also like up to it's almost like it depends on how fast you can learn and how much you can contribute. If you can learn fast, then you can contribute more at a earlier stage as well. Like I've done premise sets, schematic design development. So, and I started in July, so it's been like 3 months for me.
Great, thank you, Doris. So I'm going to unshare so that we can actually see people more fully. So what I'm going to do now is ask a few questions, and you guys can answer, and then afterwards, as the people who are attending, if you have questions, you can also ask. So the first thing I want to ask is, of recent alumni, tell us about how you approached the job and internship search process. What strategies and resources did you use? And what did you find worked and didn't? So just sort of essentially, how did you approach the job and internship search process? And you can chime in whenever you're ready, whoever wants to go.
I can start. I guess I will include things that I didn't know about and I wish I knew. But first of all, I would love to mention that looking for a job isn't essentially a job. You actually spend so much time doing it. First, placing your portfolio, putting your portfolio together, and then applying. I would say I'm a very average student. There were kids that found a job in January this year, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? But nothing wrong with this. If you don't have a job in January next year and you just graduated in May, that's totally fine. What you need to do is to start putting your portfolio together first, an essential step. So I started this in January last year, and that took me quite a lot of time. So during last winter break, I started doing that, and then during my last semester at Berkeley, I just found people, either my professors or people I worked for, so they can give me feedback on my portfolio. I got a lot of feedback. So ask people, but not too many people to give you feedback, because they will all have different opinions and you will be confused. So ask like 3 people that you trust what they think, and then go from there. And then second, I guess, step is what I wish I've done. I've done a little bit, but not enough, is networking and finding companies that you actually want to apply for. There is an overwhelming list of companies, amazing companies, but some of them may not work for you for various reasons. Create a spreadsheet and put the list of companies, like 20 or 50, I don't know, of that, something you're actually interested in. They might not have openings yet, but they might maybe they will. And you just check, I don't know, every month, every 2 weeks, whether or not they have something, or maybe you know somebody from there, or maybe you will meet somebody from there. About networking, yeah, I wish I've done it earlier. Really quick, as I remember now, since I moved to Chicago and I don't know anybody, I started networking, even though I don't have to look for a job anymore. I already have a job, and I found this cool thing that's called AAA Young Architects Forum, specifically for young architects. But young architects is such a wide such a wide way to say this. So I came to that Young Architects Forum, and there was everybody from students to people with 8 years experience. There was such a nice variety of people, and I met so many great people. I wish I've done it earlier. So check if in your chapter in San Francisco, Berkeley, or East Bay have something like this. It's called your Young Architects Forum. And lastly, applying. It takes a lot of time. You have your portfolio, you think it's over, but it's not. Applying and writing cover letters and making them, tailoring them to a firm and making your resume look good, and your LinkedIn is actually requires some time. What I did is I contacted Dinora, make an appointment with the Career Center. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help. It's actually very helpful. So she reviewed my LinkedIn and my resume and my cover letter, especially those who don't speak English fluently like me, or obviously can have an accent. So this is very, very helpful. I really, really recommend it. So yeah, I guess this is the highlights.
I guess I can go next. So I started my job search process, and I would say my story is a little different because I procrastinated definitely a lot. I didn't start until March this year, but then like March was kind of like mellow. I didn't go like I didn't search aggressively, and it was mostly me spending time working on my portfolio. So it wasn't until like April when I started really actively seeking and applying to jobs, and that's because that's when my portfolio was ready. I finished my portfolio at the end of March, and like the beginning of April, I started, like sending out a lot of emails, and I found a job in, when was it? June. Yes, when I found a job in June, I started in July. So my time frame is like pretty tight. And because I'm an international student, I had the pressure to, find a job before, otherwise I would have to leave. So for me, I think the lesson was definitely to start earlier. When I look back, now it's like I do have a job, but the amount of stress I went through, I think it was unnecessary if I, had started earlier. Especially, I feel like I could have started like the fall of 2020. I could have started talking to people already during that time, but I started pretty late, and that definitely made it very stressful for me. And so the resources and the main, I would say, also I talked to Dinora when I felt a little lost. Dinora is a great help. So if you guys need your resume, proofread, and just like overall, like if you feel lost, you should talk to someone at the Career Center. And because sometimes like when you're in that, you just don't see what you have to offer. Sometimes you need that you need that confirmation from someone else. So it's helpful to talk to these professionals when you feel lost. So the Career Center, they also have a lot of pages that have I remember like reading like these like tips and tricks on like how to approach an informational interview, which I did quite a few. I thought it was helpful talking to people, even though they didn't directly land me a job. But I think just talking to people in general, like it was like a way to learn new things. And like I would say, like indirectly, they all helped me to make the final result possible. I think I would say the Career Center, and then I would say the main website. I would say and this also is from one of the informational interviews. It was all through Zoom, so it's slightly easier. But I learned AIASF is a pretty good website where you can find opportunities, and that's actually where I found my job. What else? I think that's pretty much it for this question from me.
Okay.
Can go ahead next. So my process also started with the career fair. The job I'm working at currently, I met Phil Newsom, the principal at the TVP Architecture, at the career fair in 2020, right before COVID started. So I actually got to meet him in person. Every time I would finish a project in studio or for another class that I thought he'd be interested in, I kind of sent it to him. And I did this with a couple of other people that I met either at career fairs or through just, random interviews or networking. And I would send them what I was working on and they'd give me input. And this constant dialogue with different people was really helpful. And to be honest, they were the majority of the companies that I got interviews with after I graduated. So it was really helpful, both for school to get their input of an actual architect working on projects, of what they thought of what I was doing in school and how that applied to real life. But then it also helped because it kind of kept me in the back of their mind, so that when I, actually applied for a job, they're like, oh yeah, you're the guy that I talk to 6 times a year. So, so that's kind of the process that I used. I think talking to people is really important. Reaching out to family or friends, if you know anybody that's an architect, seeing if they have any people that they know that are hiring, or just people that you can talk to. Posting your resume on East Bay or San Francisco, I got a couple of tips with that too. To be honest, I did not get a single response from any job application I put at LinkedIn or Glassdoor or Shape or anything like that. I was ghosted on every single one of those. The only people that I got responses from were people that I had talked to either in person or over Zoom. So that's probably my biggest advice, is talking to people and staying in contact with them. Oh, sorry, just to add one more thing. Also, if people come and speak in your classes, or that's a really useful way. Or another way that I got other job interviews was I would go to events that I thought sounded interesting from that either AA, East Bay, or San Francisco hosted, and then either reach out to people there, or sometimes people would reach out to me because be like, wow, this young guy at a event about, I don't know, standardized parts or something that is seemingly boring, but is actually kind of interesting.
I think I'll just quickly echo that. I had the same experience with networking, and that I was essentially told many times that if you don't have someone flagging your application who you've spoken to before, you're not going to get hired. And so I took that pretty seriously, and I was sort of finding people, in my case, on the Hill in Congress, who were already working in Congress, and probably the most useful tool there was going on LinkedIn and searching for UC Berkeley alumni plus US House of Representatives or US Senate, and then just cold emailing people from there. But also there's a DC alumni chapter, which I used a lot. And then from there, asking people who I did connect with to connect me with other people who worked on the Hill or in Congress. And one more sort of resource to flag here was that when I did land interviews, I would frantically email Denora and then do some mock interview questions, and she was super helpful in giving me feedback on my interviewing. And I did that not just my senior or after I graduated, but ahead of sort of internships that I was trying to land as well, previous to searching for a full-time job. So that was super helpful. And I think there's also this program that I was checking out, Worcester Life, that has like CED specific alumni. And it wasn't super useful for me because CED alumni tend to go into architecture firms or into city government to do, cool planning things. And I was, going a little bit left field from the typical CED alumni, but I imagine a lot of people on the call might find that useful. I don't know if that platform is still active, but wanted to just flag that. Oh, Worcester Life doesn't exist anymore. Okay, but yeah, the other alumni stuff, just want to +1 that, very helpful.
Also, last thing I would love to mention, earlier this year, there was a program by AAA East Bay called something like AAA East Bay Student Mentorship. I'm not sure if they're doing it again. It was their first pilot program. Potentially they want to do it again upcoming spring. So check out this. It was very, very helpful. You have to apply, and they select students from DVC College and UC Berkeley. So you meet a very good range of professionals that might help you in just learn about their day-to-day life as a professional, and potentially can connect you with somebody else.
Thanks, Alex. Kai, have you spoken yet?
Not yet, but my job searching strategy is a little bit different because I basically started as an intern at this firm, and I slowly get reintroduced to do internship again, and then later was offered a full-time position. I think some of my friends also took this route. You started as an intern, and then you make a good impression, and they like you. They want to keep you around, and make sure, and that's how they got their full-time job. I guess I would add a little bit to the idea of networking. It doesn't necessarily have to go to, let's say, career fair or go to a specific event or conference to make this networking. Sometimes you can do it within school. Let's say during the final review, there's a jury really like your work. Go talk to them, and because you're making a good impression, go talk to them. They will give you advice, or hopefully they'll offer you internship job or anything. This is also how I got my first internship at a smaller landscape architecture firm. And or let your professor or friends know that there's a firm that you really want to work at. And if your professor or people know that their firm has an opening, if they're looking for someone, they'll help you to land this job. So I know that sometimes when we call networking, it just makes everything more like very formal, or people are anxious about it, but there are a lot of casual ways to make this kind of connections with people, and it doesn't have to be this scary.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm on 2 computers, so sometimes you'll see my photo. Next question. Are you hearing an echo? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let me close the other computer. Okay. Let's see what happens now. Darn it. Sorry, guys. Just 1 sec. Okay. So is it gone? I think it's gone, right? You can still hear me? Okay. Hopefully it won't happen again, but it may very well. And I don't know if I may have turned off the transcription thing. Is it still happening on where you are? It's still happening? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Okay. So next question. Sorry for that. Does anybody want to talk about how you managed your time doing your search? Because you've talked about, certainly, I wish I'd started earlier. And so that's a good plug for, yes, get started early. But is there anything you'd like to say about when you were, I just realized my AirPods aren't working. So it's technical. Is there anything you'd like to say about how you managed your time while being a student, you know, or just anything about, you know,
how much time you took, how you balanced, you know, academics with the search.
Maybe I'll just say, like, I wish I started while I was still in school, but it just like wasn't realistic. So I started right after I graduated, because I was like trying to graduate and taking classes and working, and I was just like beating myself up about it, but I just wasn't able to really get any traction there. And then like once I did graduate, I was also working part-time. So I was like doing it 20 hours a week, one thing, 20 hours a week. And it was very like intensive, but it took me about like 4 or so months to land, you know, that role in the end. And again, like I think the majority of time of my application time was networking, as we all kind of mentioned earlier, but yeah.
Okay, thanks.
For me, I think portfolio, like making the portfolio definitely took the longest time. But I think after, well, and I was like trying to, you know, put together a portfolio during school as well. So I would say like 5+ hours a week for sure. And it was stressful, but I would try to, you know, put an hour in each day. So you don't just like do 5+ hours or 10+ hours on the day. So you kind of just balance it out that way. Yeah, I think just like kind of doing a little bit of work every day helps.
Thank you.
I don't have a specific number for per week or per day. I don't think I was that consistent, but I would say I put a tons of work during the winter break when I didn't have school, and started applying a little bit before spring break and started heavily applying during spring break when I had time. So I did not have time after spring break. I was graduating, so that was a lot.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to move on to, for Kim and Kai, can you talk about do's and don'ts for internship and job applicants from your experience, things that have stood out from your experience of like, yes, that was great, and oh gosh, maybe not. Any input?
I guess I can start first. I think one thing you should know is to learn about the company that you're applying. Know what kind of work they do. Know not just the style of work, but like the topology of work that they do, the project they get, and the kind of not necessarily a working culture. Because if you know the project type they're doing, you can target that with your portfolio. And what I think is you should always have a portfolio. I think portfolio is super, super important for designers. And this is something that represents yourself. And also you should know how to present your portfolio, how to present your work. And I just like, you don't have to tell us everything about your project. We know that you put in a lot of effort in your project, but try to summarize your project in very few sentences so we can understand what is going on, and let your drawings to tell us the details. But learning how to present your portfolio is something I think everyone should think about and should practice more on that.
Thank you. Kim, did you want to?
Sure. I mean, I would definitely echo everything that Kai said. You know, I think targeting is important. It's important to do research on the firms that you're interested in. It does just, I mean, if you do get the opportunity to have a conversation with somebody, it just shows that you are interested, you have done some research, and, you know, you just have a better conversation if you're knowledgeable about what the firm does and the type of projects that they do work on. I would say another thing that's important is to also just follow up. You know, we get a lot of emails, and as hard as we try to respond to all of them, we might not necessarily get around to responding. And so it's important to follow up if you don't hear back necessarily, and just show that you're continually interested.
Follow up if you don't hear. Good, thank you. We have a question in the chat to elaborating a little bit more about targeting the company in your portfolio.
Yeah, sure. I guess it covers more than just portfolio. It also includes your resume, your cover letter. Let's say if you know this studio use hand sketching as a part of this design process, why don't you include more hand sketches or art making process in your portfolio so that you can talk about it with that company? Or I think this is more like a don't. Like, let's say for a certain company, they only do certain type of work. Let's say they only do residential type work. And then in your cover letter, you say that, oh, I like you do a lot of infrastructure work. Then it doesn't make sense to them, and you will automatically go into the no pile. So make sure that you know what they do, and then in your cover letter or portfolio, try to address that and try to cover them. It'll help you to be more prepared in those situations.
Thank you. Now I want to, so we've had one question from the audience, and I want to give anybody else who wants to ask a question the opportunity to do so. So if you'd like, you can unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can put it in the chat. You can ask a specific person, or you can ask a general question. And if you don't have one, I'll ask more questions. I just want to give you guys an opportunity. How long should we take to present our portfolio?
I don't think there's like a range or like a specific number of minutes, but let's use our internship interview process as an example. Usually we will try to cover the whole interview within 30 minutes, and then we will try to let the candidate to talk about their portfolio for 20 minutes. But within this 20 minutes, you don't have to talk about every single project. Let's say you submitted a 30 pages portfolio. You don't have to go through page by page. What we want to learn is your design ideas, your design thinking, and you should try to present your strength and what you're good at and what you're passionate about in those 20 minutes. So it's not like, okay, so I have 20 minutes, so I have 6 projects, I will give 3 minutes to each project. No, we want to know what you're passionate about, what you're excited about to be a designer. So try to do that in 20 minutes. It's very tricky. So that's why I think that you should practice it with your friends, or anyone, people from Career Center, and try to know how to present yourself as a designer to us in those time frame. So because especially when you're trying to do it on Zoom, you will fall into a dilemma that, okay, I have 20 pages, I'll go through page by page. So try to learn how to tell a great story about yourself. Think about it that way instead of presenting a portfolio. I think that will help you to be better prepared in terms of doing interview and presenting your portfolio. Try to tell a story of who you are and what you want to be as a designer to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll also add that because there is limited time, we typically say, highlight your favorite 2 or 3 projects from your portfolio. We don't necessarily want to go through every page, but pick out your top projects and then kind of walk us through them. So
great. So we have a question for Rudy.
Yeah, so
I'm just going to read it out so that people out there can see it or can hear it. How did you land your job not having Revit and AutoCAD experience, since Berkeley doesn't teach those programs? Did you gain experience elsewhere before landing your current job?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix. I had an internship for summer and fall of 2019. So I learned AutoCAD on the job there. And I had, before that, when I had first gotten that internship, I had taken the LinkedIn Learning course so that I kind of knew what I was doing before I even got on the job. And then I learned way more during those 5 months working for that firm. So I already knew AutoCAD. And then what I started doing after that, because that firm didn't use Revit, but they told me that they were going to, and that every firm they knew of was planning on using Revit. So what I started doing is I started doing my studio projects in Revit as much as I could. And then I would, just switch it over to Rhino for exporting the line work. And that worked pretty well. And I got to learn a lot about modeling in Revit, but I didn't really know any of the construction document side of Revit. So I'm honestly still learning that on the job right now. And I also did a LinkedIn Learning class for Revit before I started this job, but I've learned way more, just working in Revit for 9 hours a day. So I can also kind of touch on the question earlier, which asks about networking strategies. I talked about the career fair being a huge help. I went to both the 2021 and the 2021 fair, and I got really good connections from both of those. But I think the most impactful ones, maybe not in actually getting a job, but just connection wise for me, have been kind of the unusual ones. The ones where I saw somebody's lecture or met someone randomly, or went to an AIA event and then either reached out to them or they reached out to me. So look for those, because at a career fair, you're meeting hundreds of students. But if you're at a AIA event where you're really interested in some, niche thing that they're presenting on, having a student reach out to them is going to be a lot more impactful. So that's my advice on both Revit, AutoCAD, software, and reaching out to people.
Thank you. Does any of you want to, because we're going to shift over to focusing on international students, but before that, I want to ask if any of you has anything that you feel like, oh, I really need to share this. This is really important. Everybody should know this, whether it has to do with networking or presenting yourself at career fairs or any aspect of job or internship searching.
I guess I would love to just mention that you, as a fresh graduate, don't have to be so hard on yourself. People who hire you, they are aware of that you just graduated. They know you have very little to no experience, so you don't have to worry about you not having that much of experience. It's they expect you not to have experience, so that's fine. And something about Revit, I just want to second Rudy saying LinkedIn Learning, it has very helpful, very helpful courses that you can start doing now. And you have a free account through UC Berkeley.
Great, thank you. Does anybody want to quickly say anything about salary negotiation, even though that's sort of more of an interviewing question? You can talk about your own experience, or if you've employed people, the employer's perspective on salary negotiation.
I feel like I don't have much experience, and I actually would love to hear somebody with more experience talking about this.
Yeah. So, I mean, just in general, I can say that it's, you know, you want to do some research ahead of time, and there are resources for that. And that could be a whole other workshop. So, so there are resources on our website, salary. If you go to the Career Center website, career.berkeley.edu, and just put salary in the keyword section, you can gather information there. And I also have a handout with language that you can use. I don't know that it's actually on the website. So if you want, you can email me and I can send it to you. Anybody out there, denora@berkeley.edu. And, but it's, I think, I would say in general, you need to know what you bring to the table. And you can't, I mean, really employers are not going to respond based on, I need more money, just on that, without, you know, I bring these skills, I bring this experience. Thanks, Jen, for putting that in the chat. I'm especially good at this skill that would, you know, allow me to hit the ground running when most candidates wouldn't have this skill, you know, assuming you know that, you don't want to be presumptuous, but you want to give concrete reasons why it makes sense for you to get paid better than what you might be offered. Ideally, you don't first say what you want to make. Ideally, the employer, you get them to say it first. It's kind of a, you know, I don't know, cat and mouse game. I don't know if you quite call it that, but, but the idea is that you want to be equipped with knowledge that you've gathered. I mean, even if you, I mean, people don't, especially, I mean, in the US, like to talk about what they make, but if you have friends, you know, you can ask them, but really using the salary resources, that's going to give you some good places to start. And then looking online about salary negotiation. Anybody else want to say anything? Okay. Kim.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I mean, I think one of the most helpful resources that you have aside from the internet is asking your peers, you know, people that you feel comfortable asking, because, you know, you'll get a sense of kind of what level they're at, what their responsibilities are, and if they're in alignment with, you know, where you are, then that's a good place to check. And, you know, even someone at my level, I'm still doing that. So it does not end.
Yeah, it's an ongoing skill. And I think it's something that most people, you know, it's not in many people's toolbox that live very comfortably. It's an interesting thing. But, you know, maybe we'll do a program on that at some point. Or, you know, okay. We have one question, and I don't want to, Jane, is it okay if I do one more question and then you?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No, yeah.
Okay. Are there any skills that are not architecture related, but you found very helpful while working? Like, in other words, first of all, not all the students here are architecture students. And then also, you know, it's not just like your design skills are only part of your toolbox. It's also who you are. What other skills do you think are important, or that you've used, that you've brought to the table?
I wanted to say, like, communication is very important in any sort of relationship, even in your work environment. Honestly, like, I think it's also related to Denora's question, like what the best tip, or like what other advice I have is that you know, as an entry level person, like for me, like I literally just had like a 2-week internship before my full-time job because of COVID. So that internship was super short. I wouldn't say I learned a whole lot. It was a meaningful experience, but I wouldn't say it's meaningful enough for employers to see that, you know, it's not significant enough to add much to my resume, I would say. So I think it's like your personality matters a lot at this point, whether it fits or not with the cultural environment in the firm. And I think for me, the key is always, I think being communicative is very important, you know, letting people know what you think. Just always, you know, keep them posted about your progress. I think it's super helpful. Yeah, so I think that's like for me the number one skill that everyone should have. That's not our key related.
Thank you.
I'll also add that, we're looking for someone who can work in a team setting because, projects, they're not solo. They require a big team to work on from, other people in terms of just your colleagues working at the same firm, but also, other consultants, clients. So it's really important to have good communication, but also be willing to work as a larger team in order to be successful. And also, I would say the other thing is just eagerness, kind of willingness to learn. I think echoing what one of the questions was previously about, how important is it to know Revit and to know all these different softwares? And, I think Alex hit it on the head where, we're not expecting you to be Revit pros when you're first coming out of school, but we do like to know if you've tinkered with the software, if you've tried, on your own to take some classes or at least open the program and kind of familiarize yourself with it. So just showing that, you're kind of willing to learn, you're willing to go the extra mile to gain new skills is important.
And thanks, Anna, for putting in the chat, being personable and easy to work with goes a long way. Yeah, sometimes, you may have the knowledge that you need, you may have the skills that you need, the transferable skills, but personality, it's a question of, it's like chemistry. If it's a fit, culture fit, you can be awesome and a given employer may just have a different style and you may not mesh, but it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or with them per se. It's just that it may not be the best fit. So that's why it's important to learn about the employer before you apply and in the course of the interview to learn more about them so that you can assess whether it's a good fit as well. Because, there are personality types that will work well in certain situations and in others where it might be more of a difficult, So I would say, the question, Mari, you asked about what kind of personality are they looking for? I think being easy to work with is probably a good thing overall, like less headache, good thing. But it will depend on the employer, what they are, specifically what they care about. Okay, so I've taken enough time with my questions. Thank you all for, those of you who have attended, and we're going to shift into work questions, or Jing is going to talk about international student job search. And even if you're not an international student, there may be questions that that she asks that you might find useful to hear the answers to, so you can stay on, or if you feel ready to leave, that's okay as well. So Jing, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you, everybody, so far.
Yeah, thank you, Denora. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for all of our wonderful panelists today. Thank you for sharing. So from here on, we're going to switch the gear a little bit and to focus more on the students, because we do have a good number of international students at CED. Actually, it's the number 3 college with the international student population. So that's why we have been collaborating on events for international students 2 years, right? And that's what we have been doing. So yeah, thank you for all of you being with us here. Especially thank you, Kim, and all of our panelists to stay longer. So I'm gonna take a little bit time to share some of the information I want to give to the international students, and then we're gonna switch over to, because I think that's the most helpful part. Okay. So number one, very quickly, I want to share with all of you a little bit information about overall landscape. We know that international students are facing a different job market. We're having more limitations and we have to work harder. And then last year has been very difficult given the pandemic and then the job market. However, so here I want to share a little bit information. At the bottom of the slide, I have this here. So basically, this is the data from hand, which is the career system, right? Career Center used to let employers post their jobs and recruit students. So the graphic here are showing the data about job and internship posting numbers on Handshake. The blue bar are internship posting number, and then the orange ones are full-time. And then this data is from January 2017 to October this year. So where we are. So basically over the past 4 to 5 years-ish, we can see that there's like a climbing trend with the number of full-time jobs. By the way, those are job internships open to international students, either by opening to OPT, CPT work authorization, or either they're willing to even sponsor job visa. So as we can see here, the full-time job numbers are climbing over the 4 to 5 years. Internships are up and down because, like Denora mentioned, out of a school year, we have peak time, slow time for campus recruiting, especially for internships. So if we divide the time frame by year, we can see obvious peak time, slow time. So now reach the peak time. And for international students, like I think like Rudy mentioned, like Doris and some other alumni mentioned earlier, always start early as much as possible, because we need more time, right, to learn and practice, to network, and to get an interview and an offer. But overall, I want to just show you this trend here. Overall, it has been positive and optimistic for international students. We see a drop during the pandemic time, but I think Denora will also agree, since April-ish, we see a like a climbing trend or jump back, right, with the posting numbers on Handshake. We heard from employers positive feedback that they're actively seeking, so leverage this current job market. Okay, so that's number one. And then number two, every year, Berkeley International Office will share with me the employment data of international students by showing me the employment reports of CPT and the OPT. So for many of you here, if you're F1 visa, you probably know you have the CPT, which is curricular practical training, right? Work permit to do internship in the US. And then after you graduate, you can use OPT, optional practical training, which is also a work permit to full-time work in the US. So every year I can get the data of how many CPT, OPT job reports we received from international students. So we're very happy to see that for the past school year, from August 2020 to August 2021, we have roughly about 184 CPT, OPT employment reports from international students. And then actually this is the data we got from the top 5 programs of CED. We didn't calculate in some of the small programs, which has single-digit number of international students. But this number is bigger than the one from the year before. So this is very encouraging to know. And then when you look into the reports, 3 of those CPT, OPT job reports are from master degree students, especially from architecture and landscape architecture programs. So if you, I think Denora and I will share the slides with you. So if you click on this link here, you will see the employer list. You will see the employer names based on the different programs, and then you can see who they are. And then later on, I will show you the resources for you to find the employers who hired Berkeley students using OPT from 17 to 2020. So you can see the list there. Okay. All right, and then number 2, I want to mention some job search resources that international students should pay attention to. So I'm going to jump over to Handshake from here. So this is a student account, right, on Handshake. So you probably are familiar with this one. On Handshake, we have the filters, right, to help us to find which jobs, which employers are open to international students. So if we go to jobs, because we have a large number here, so we always encourage you, right, to use the filters to filter the jobs. So you can see the filters on my screen here, right? Okay, cool, yeah. So when we go over the filters here, I'm pretty sure many of you found that before. We have this work authorization filters here. So those are the filters that can help us to know which employers, which jobs are open to work authorization, like OPT, CPT, and which jobs are even willing to sponsor, or that doesn't require US work visa. Maybe they're global, they're overseas, right? So those are the filters that we can use. So we can try OPT CPT. And then typically I will go back to either industry or job role to help me, right, narrow down the positions that can fit my major or fit with the career field. So for example, I can go to industry here, and then among the drop down menu here, I can choose, I think there's, yeah, architecture, the screen is very small. Okay, so architecture and planning, and then open to OPT CPT. So for now, we have 60 jobs right here, and then we can show the results. And then here you can see who they are, and then the job description will be on the right. And then when you're on the job description page, you can see the information here about US work authorization. For this one, for example, they're okay with OPT CPT. They may or may not sponsor, but they're okay with you, right? Working for them using work authorization. And then later on here, there will be more information telling you what that means. So yeah, feel free to leverage those filters, right? To find out the employers who are open to international students, either through work permit or visa. But this doesn't mean you don't try other employers. Those are the ones who are publicly saying, right, they're recruiting, but other employers, if you see there is a good fit, apply and talk to them, right? Maybe the employers are not that familiar with the options they have to hire international students. So give it a try. That means we may work harder with other employers, but don't give up, right, on the other jobs. Okay, so that's something I want to show you on the handshake. Right, then we come back here. Beyond handshake, yeah, thank you, Genera, for talking about other websites, right, other resources for us to find employers and jobs. And for here, so again, after you get the slide, you will have the link. So basically in your handshake resources, we put together the employer list that hired Berkeley international students using OPT over 2017 to 2020. So you can check the employers, and then some of them might not be on handshake, but they hired before, so they're more likely, right, to consider us moving forward. So that's the value of that. And then even beyond OPT CPT, online, there are many H-1B databases. So H-1B is the most common used job visa for international students. So maybe you heard about H-1B a lot. So there are many online databases for us to find which employers sponsored in H-1B visa for what position. So I listed 3 here, and I use myvisajobs.com the most. So you can search employers by industry, location, and by typing the name. And then you can see the salary, the title, to measure if that's a fit or if that's an entry-level position, etc. Okay, so those are the resources that we can use, right, to try to understand which employers are open, which ones had a history of hiring, right, that can be more likely to consider us. But again, we can begin from those employers, but don't give up on the others, right? We have students every year who can override the screening criteria of the employers and get opportunity, okay? All right, and then I look into the international students who got internship or full-time jobs using OPT CPT before. And I found many of them, they are working for studios that are global, but small in terms of the number of employees, maybe history, but they're global. They're in San Francisco, but then one in London, one in Asia. I found it might be helpful for us to have resources, right, to identify those employers. So that's why on this slide here, I listed some of the global job search resources the Career Center has. So among the ones here, you can check them later, but among the ones here, I want to emphasize UniWorld. Basically, this is a resource that can tell us the employers or the organizations that are running business between our home country or targeted country and the US. So we can find those and then see if there is any good match that you can talk to. Right? So they may leverage or value more of our cultural background and language. At the bottom here, the last thing I want to mention here is that since we're actively looking for jobs, and maybe many of you are F1 or J1 visa here, besides the OPT CPT, H1B again will be the major job visa you're going to use to full-time work in the US. So that's why every fall we're inviting an immigration attorney to speak to students about H-1B visa, because there are so many details, it's always changing. So that's why here, this coming Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m., we're having the a lawyer from Where Immigration to talk to you about the details of H-1B. He will detail on H-1B, but he will also mention other visa options and many of the relevant information. Okay, so again, when you click on the link, that will take you into the Handshake event page to RSVP and attend that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just roughly walk through some of the key resources and message for international student. Okay, so feel free to type up any questions in the chat. And then from here on, we're going to turn over to our panelists. And we do also have some questions for our panelists to share their first-hand experience, which will be gold. All right, so I will start it maybe with everyone here that have been trying to look for jobs as an international student. So for those of you who look for jobs as an international student, thank you all for all the things you have shared. Those are really good. But my question for all of you here will be, when you were looking for a job as an international student, what are some of the challenges you faced, and what are some of the strategies and tips you used that helped you landing the job as an international student? Anything that you want to share with your international peers can be helpful. Anyone ready can go first.
So I don't know how many of you are international, but I am international. So I did see quite a few. I wouldn't say a lot of them like very explicitly said like we don't sponsor. Actually, at least the firms that I was looking at, I feel like a lot of the bigger firms tend to, or they just don't say anything a lot of the time, especially if you just look them up on, like if you just look at their website. And so my thinking about this, right? So I'm on OPT, and OPT, like the employer doesn't have to do anything. Like they don't have anything to lose. It's almost like a free trial for them. Like they don't have to pay you extra to work for you to work in their office. So I try to like downplay my international like identity a little bit, or like just never like really said much about it. And it's like I just want to like let them see everything else before my identity being like an international student. So yeah, I'm not like I think there's definitely a lot of firms that maybe they're kind of on like the in-between side. They don't say like, yeah, we are absolutely like sponsoring you, like super like supportive on this, but I think they have the ability to. It's like I feel like a lot of the firms have the ability to, if they do think you're worth it. So I think that's my take on this. I think it's just like downplaying this, like when, especially on your OPT, because they don't have to do anything about your status. So it's just try to make everything else put together and go from there. And like if they ever ask, I never actually nobody asked me about my status, so it kind of just it's like once I like need to go into work, if they need to, like they did need to see my EAD card, and I think that's like when the big reveal was. But I in my introduction I did say I'm from China, and so they I don't know, maybe I don't know if they could assume that I'm I think they should know. So but that's my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Doris, for sharing that. So yeah, Kai.
I think that employer nowadays are more familiar with international student and more familiar with the process of hiring international student, especially for full-time position or when they need to sponsor H1B or extend your OPT with the OPT stamp. Like a few years back then, people are still figuring out how to do it. But in recent years, you can see a lot of the employer willing to sign up for OPT stamp because at the end of the day, they want to hire strong talent. They want to hire people. They can bring talent to the table. So they're willing to do that. So you don't have to think that you're in a slightly disadvantaged position. But of course, negotiating with the employer and asking them to sponsor H1B, green card, something else, it could be a different topic. But in terms of getting your first job, landing your first internship, I think you shouldn't be worried that you're international student thinking, oh, I'm an international student, so the employer might not want me or blah, 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 because I think they're familiar with the process and they know what to do. And one thing I want to bring up is if you're an international student, it's very obvious that English might not be your first language. And I know that it is scary to speak a foreign language and try to present yourself not in your mother tongue. So try to practice it more and be confident and know and know how to present your work. I cannot stress enough how important it is to present yourself and be able to present your work and present yourself as a designer. So I think this is something that international students might have to work a little bit more on. But in general, I think I've seen a lot of international students, my friends, my peers, or people who apply for internship with strong talent, and we would love to have them to be in our office. And I'm sure a lot of employers will do the same as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kai and Doris. Yeah, that's very encouraging for us to know. So for the time purpose, I will move on to the second question, which will be for Kim and Kai, since both of you had, recruiting experience, right? So the next question will be, what special strengths or advantages do international students bring as the candidates? And in what areas can international students improve to make themselves more competitive? Anything comes to mind can be fine. Yeah. Anything you think they can bring to the team as their strengths, advantages, or areas you think they should improve? Kai kind of touched on that, right?
Yeah, I kind of touched on that. Like the language barrier might be something we have to work on, but in general, I think people can handle it well. And I think definitely growing up or being exposed to a different cultural background definitely helps. And because you might from a different country, you might travel a lot, seeing a lot of stuff in terms of design process. I think that is very important to be able to pull different precedents or experience into your design work. And I can also use my work environment as an example. I actually work on project in Asia, in China, in Hong Kong, in Korea. I'm from Hong Kong. I happen to work on a Hong Kong project and definitely bring a lot to the table. And my employer is very willing to listen to my opinion on some of the design strategies, presentation strategies, because a lot of time when it comes to design, it's not just about design. I think making a presentation and speaking to the client is very important as well. If there's an opportunity, you might be the point of contact to help your office to communicate with the client. That happened to me, and that worked very well because I happen to be the only two people in the office who speak Chinese Cantonese at a time. So it really helped us to land the project and help us to get a project. So this is something that some skill that or some advantage we might have. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Kai. Kim?
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Kai said. I think with international students, you have people from different cultural backgrounds who have different world experiences who can bring that to the table. That definitely adds a dimension to both the person, but also kind of their design skills as well. I mean, a lot of the international students that we talk to are usually master's students. So, they've done their undergraduate studies at these different international universities. Sorry, that's my daughter. And they're just bringing all these different experiences with them, and I think that's really beneficial.
Yeah, thank you, Kim, for sharing that. I think Doris kind of touched on that, and then Kai also, but many of the international students, when they're applying for jobs, when they're talking to employers, somewhere we will have this question from the employer: are you authorized to work in the US? And do you need employer sponsorship, right, or visa to continue to work in the US? Students always feel pressured, are not sure how to handle that conversation, right? Either during the application or talking to employer at the fair or even during the interview. So based on your recruiting experience, also based on your experience in seeking jobs as an international student, is there any feedback to help the students, better understand or prepare for that conversation with the employer? Because that's a very common question I got from international students, and I think that's a
international students. I feel like
so any feedback or any advice will be helpful. And also, Doris, you can also jump in if you have any feedback on that.
So for me, I hear myself in I hear the echoing, but anyways, so my plan I wasn't thinking about visa sponsorship, to be honest. I was just thinking of doing this 1 year LPT, make the best out of this experience. So, for me, it's pretty lighthearted, like in terms of the subject. But so I would say, like I said, I downplayed the international part. I feel like it's important for them to see you before your status. You have to make them like you first. I think that's important. So for me, I just went into this job without stressing too much. I didn't ask them. I didn't say anything at all. I didn't have any conversation related to visa sponsorship or any sort. I just, on the first day, I showed them my EAD card, so they know they see that it expires next year, they see that. And then we didn't talk about it. And I think that was also a time for the employer. I think they need time to think too. They're not gonna just say on the first day, oh, we're gonna sponsor your visa, because they have risk to take too. So I think it's important, for both of you to take time, take the time to show them, to prove them that you're worth it, and also them taking the time to evaluate whether it's worth the risk. And so actually 2 months after I started my job, I wasn't thinking about it. I just wanted to make this year a very meaningful experience. But in September, my employer asked me if I was interested in visa sponsorship. So they actually brought up this conversation. I wasn't even thinking about it at all. And I kind of had a tough time deciding, because I did have another plan. I wanted to go somewhere else. But now I'm considering both. I want to keep options open for myself. And also with the visa process, there's this lottery, and even if they want to sponsor me, it's not guaranteed. So so I'm just keeping my options open, even if I can't stay. I have another plan. I have plan B, but I think I am considering staying as well if everything works out at the end, for a couple more years maybe. So that's my experience. I don't know if it's helpful, but that's what happened for me.
Yeah, thank you, Doris. Yeah, that's very helpful for us to hear. For the time purpose, for Kim, Kai, and Doris, before we wrap up, is there any last minute of advice you want to share with the international student here? Anything we didn't cover yet? Sorry.
I just want to quickly respond to the question you just asked. I think that one thing is very important is to know your status. You have to understand your right, or your visa you have to apply, F1, H1B, OPT stamp, I know this is a lot, it's overwhelming, but you have to understand it before you explain. Of course, like you have to understand what you need and what your employer has to do before you go into an interview. Otherwise, when they ask you, you don't know how to answer them. It's not good for both of you. And also you have to understand that, like Doris might have said, the employer also have to take on some of the responsibility, whether it's legal responsibility, financial responsibility. But I'm just trying to say that I know this is a stressful process, especially for undergrad. Their program is not STEM eligible, right? So you only have a year to prepare for it. So if you're in the job searching process, you might have to, for some of the smaller firm or a firm that doesn't have international working in their firm, it might not be harder for them to sponsor you or know what to do. So maybe in the job searching process, you have to take that into consideration. But like I say, I think for medium-sized or bigger firm who has higher international student knows what they have to do, I would say maybe start with those firms, and that will make things easier. And also there are strategies for you to ask your employer to sponsor you. And one way of doing it is to prove that you're bringing talent to the table, and also you're eager to stay there and have a long-term partnership with your employer. So if you're able to show them, and then at the same time, they would also like to keep you around, then they might sponsor your visa. So this is something I know is very stressful, and it's not easy, but this is also very important for us to work and stay legally in the States. So it's something that I wish everyone to research more on that. And in case your employer asks, oh, what is H-1B? What is OPT? One thing you can show them is you just link them to the international office at Berkeley. I think those the international office provide great resources for people to learn more about it. And this is the most direct way for the employer to learn about it as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kai, for preparing for the conversation, researching about options, right? And then Bio, they do have a website talking about the OPT, CPT. And then we as the students, we can for sure make some notes, right? And then prepare for the conversation. That's for sure our responsibility, right? As the job seeker. Yeah. Any advice from Kim or Doris before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would just add, and I think someone mentioned this earlier, but just give yourself more time so that you don't feel so pressured and so stressed. I mean, it's already stressful enough, but by kind of rushing yourself into the process and not giving yourself enough time to do a thorough search and making sure you have time to reach out to people, you're not helping yourself. So give yourself enough time and stay positive.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, we need that. We saw so many students, struggling and stressed about schoolwork and adjusting back to in-person instruction and then hitting the ground running with job search. Yeah, thank you, Kim. All right, I'm over time already by 5 minutes. Thank you so much for staying with us until the end. Especially thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Dinara. Hope you receive some good advice. Yeah, Dinara, I will turn over to you.
Thank you so much, you guys, panelists and students. But and I don't think I said a thank you in a gracious enough way to all of the panelists. I just sort of transferred over to Jing. So really appreciate your taking the time and staying this long, and I hope you found it worthwhile, and we'll invite you back to come back again and hope you'll be happy to come back. So have a good evening, and take care, stay healthy and all that.